Okay, so I made an idiotic move here. I don't know if my system failed or what, to be honest, or if I didn't do it, but I didn't record my video on this whole video. So I'm going to insert this at the beginning. The good news is my audio recorded. If I'm including this, that means my audio recorded. So I don't know what happened there, but we'll do it without my video on this one. Apologies, but hopefully it still has the same effect. Thank you much. Hey, welcome back, Renegades. We're back for Ren. In this one, we're going to do Crucify Your Culture. Several of you have recommended this to me as a money game adjacent song. So let's go ahead and dive right in. Crucify Your Culture, Ren. Okay, right out of the gate, this is a very Jimi Hendrix type of groove to me. It just reeks of it. And I love this cartoonist Ren playing the guitar. Really, really neat. We're only 7 seconds in, so we'll start it back over.
A murderer's mind, born into a murderous time, where right or wrong is a blurred line, hard to define. For greed is poison the well, we all drink from the chalice. It's a long way down into the rabbit hole, Alice. Now I crucify your culture, burn down the old-up religion of consumerism, picks us up like vultures, takes us for punks. They say jump, we jump. It's the same if it's Bush or Obama or Trump. I'm not buying into a 1, 2, 3 party system. I rise against them illusions of choice. Take our voice, so take back your rigged election system deficit. Represent nobody but your money. Funny how you keep them sweet, honey. Shepherds and the sheep, Tommy. Someday they'll find a way to sell my views, like they sold the concept of freedom to you. They sold the voice of Huxley, of Orwell, Guevara, Dalai Lama. Now they're all just a product to you. And now you care more about your new shoes, the loose screws and minds of politicians that abuse truths to shape you, break you. Consumerism breaks you until your thoughts they end you. They make you wanna hate you, so you keep buying. Corporation buying, defying fraudulent liars and burning empires. Tap into the telephone wires and history's biased. It glorifies and justifies our evil. It justifies the wars that rain destruction upon people. Every single human born equal. They treat you like an asset, not a human, man. It's see-through. Slavery through debt. You think that mortgage is to help you? Bills stacking high, killing dreams, money maims you, lying tames you. The land of the free, irony. A hierarchy, folks, education kills the fire in me. Still I stand strong like two towers that were knocked down by greedy men's thirst for power and now greed. Greed plants a seed that will destroy us all if we succumb to greed. Fuck greed, silent I breathe, burn money. Greed makes us bleed.
Okay. Oh my goodness. We'll go back a few seconds. I've wanted to stop throughout the whole thing, but I can't. But this riff right here, I'm hearing so many musical influences. I think we'll analyze the lyrics separately. But like I talked about Jimmy at the beginning, I'm hearing Beastie Boys influence big time, especially the way, just the groove of the song. We'll talk about this groove here, but in general, there's certainly Rage Against the Machine, that bass line. Like that's very Rage Against the Machine type of thing. I'm even hearing like maybe some Beck influence in this. Maybe even a little Red Hot Chili Peppers sprinkled on top. But this riff right here is like classic Rage Against the Machine. In fact, I even think in one of Ren's videos, when I talked about Rage Against the Machine, or maybe it was The Big Push, I even kind of quoted a song from way back in the day where it was like, do-do-do-do-do-wee-do. Like, it's the same exact feel right here.
Greed, silent I breathe, burn money. Greed makes us bleed. Our political system is a farce. Democracy will not exist till actions speak louder than money. Wealth is a poison honey, another money making holiday for the Easter bunny.
Jeez.
Coca-Cola lining up the pockets of the fat controller, selling fear to the people, let it spread like a bowl. A propaganda machine, remember the dream, it's hopeless.
Are those bullets flying? What's flying down? Yeah, I think those are bullets. Bombs. They're bombs. Like dropping the bombs. Okay.
Solar drink Coca-Cola, lining up the pockets of the fat controller, selling fear to the people, let it spread like a bowl. A propaganda machine, remember the dream, it's hopeless. Nikola Tesla, 1883. The DC current system fought against the AC.
Oh, yeah.
The system wasn't any better, cause people don't like change when money's at the center. Move, let me enter from the epicenter. Poison parliamenter, who's...
There we go. referencing.
The president evident that the counterintelligence is a hell of a prevalent.
There was so much in that. Oh my goodness. That was only 2.5 minutes. And it felt like it was an hour. Like just boom, boom, one thing after another. I already talked about all these musical influences. Let's talk about the video and the cinematography. And just the production value. The imagery, of course, is painting such a good picture. Adding hints in some cases, very direct quotes and references. Sometimes shocking content that kind of forces you to think. And it's very complimentary, right? Like, I feel like Ren has studied, some of the best speakers, actually, right? Like, I had to learn Steve Jobs speaking strategies and styles. And if you listen to Steve Jobs videos, when he presents, his slide decks are atypical from a lot of business slide decks because he doesn't have all this text up there, whatever. He has images or videos or something that complements what he's saying. And Ren's doing that same thing here, right? It makes you think. It doesn't directly, sometimes it directly complements. We saw the newspaper he's reading essentially line for line as it's highlighting it, but it's a combination, and Ren is so good at that in terms of his effects. It looks like they used a creative company here because it's on my screen right at the end, but I'm sure with direction from him and so forth, and it's just so well done. Now, this is one that we've got to really, really pick apart, the lyrics. So I'm going to do that. So bear with me. I'm going to take a stab at it. Now, I will say I do have the lyrics in front of me, so we're going to kind of stumble through it a little bit together. If for whatever reason you're someone that likes to skip past this, which I don't understand because honestly to me this song is cool and it's fun, but what makes it is the lyrics. But if you are, I want to say thank you for watching this far. Please go ahead and subscribe. We got a Ren membership. Only a few people have joined at this point. I'm sure it will grow, but check that out. I'll put a link here where we get a number of perks, including access to videos up to a week and longer over ahead of time. And let's get to the lyrics. And so we've got a murderous mind born into a murderous time where right or wrong is a blurred line hard to define. For greed has poisoned the well, we all drink from the chalice. It's a long way down into the rabbit hole, Alice. Now I crucify your culture, burn down the altar, religion. No, I think that's a good place to stop. So, a murderous mind born into a murderous time. So, murderous mind obviously suggests a mindset towards aggression, harm, anger. But then we pair it with a murderous time, which is like, it's representative of, a period of violence, corruption, moral breakdown, moral decay. We saw some of that type of stuff there, right? And so like when you put these two together, it's almost like this cyclical violence, destructive tendencies, both ingrained in the individual and in society, which basically creates a little bit of Pandora's box to create egregious acts, right? And it just blurs this morality as a result of it. So greed has poisoned the well. This kind of suggests that the root of society's issues lies in, the widespread pursuit of profit, tainting everything it touches. Religion of consumerism picks us off like vultures, takes us for punks. They say jump, we jump. Consumerism as a religion. Wow. It picks us off like vultures. It's almost like it strips us individual agency and identity, right? Like this pervasive belief system. And the consumerism as a religion, it's like this society's obsession with material gain leads to this moral decay that I talked about, likening consumers to punks. take us for punks, blindly following commands, right? They say jump, we jump. It's the same as if it's Bush or Obama or Trump. So in other words, it doesn't matter who's in power. I'm not buying into a 1, 2, 3 party system. I rise against them. Illusions of choice take our voice, so take back your rigged election system deficit. Represent nobody but your money. Funny how you keep on sweet honey, shepherd and the sheep dummy. Someday they'll find a way to sell my views like they sold the concept of freedom to you. So, I mean, first of all, it's kind of dismissing the general 2-party system. He says 1, 2, 3-party system. Basically, it doesn't matter. Illusion of choice, right? Challenging the idea that these political entities represent general alternatives, right? That really any of it's truthful. It's all a guise. It's a mask. There's a call to action here, I feel like, as well, to kind of rise against the system. Denouncing elections as rigged. He says, illusions of choice take our voice, so take back your rigged election. Controlled by money, represent nobody but your money, funny, rather than genuine, democratic values. Yeah, I mean, I get the point, and it's rise up, and it's very Rage Against the Machine-esque, and it's very in alignment with, political concepts he talked about in Money Game 2, I believe it was, or was it 1? Whatever, I'm blanking, but in any case, it's I do see the tangential tie to that. I'm not sure I 100% agree with it all. I'll leave that aside. I don't think everything's rigged and that everything is, fuck the system and everything's wrong and so forth. I think that sometimes, these types of arguments, perhaps deliberately and intentionally go a little bit too far to get people to rise up for change. And sometimes maybe that's what's necessary. But if we're treating it kind of literally, I'm not sure I agree with everything. And that's okay. We're all entitled to our own opinions, right? But conceptually, I completely understand and I agree that there are problems. At least in terms of my understanding of the U.S., right? They sold the voice of Huxley, of Orwell, Guevara, Dalai Lama. Now we're all just a product to you, and now you care more about your new shoes than loose screws in minds of politicians that abuse truths to shape you and break you. Consumerism rapes you until your thoughts they aren't you. I mean, that is just so powerful. Consumerism rapes you until your thoughts, they ain't you. My gosh. And so we're creating like this commodification of like revolutionary figures, right? Like Huxley, Orwell, Guevara, Dalai Lama, right? Revolutionary people that, they've been kind of turned into products. We're all just a product to you. Right? And now you care more about your new shoes, right? And so forth. So they're once symbols of resistance or alternative thought, now are kind of marketable entities. And it kind of just illustrates the pervasiveness of capitalism through everything and the profit and so forth. That's, I think, what he's trying to get at here. They make you want to hate you. Woo. So you keep buying, right? So it's kind of this consumerism self-image. Making people feel inadequate, breaking you down almost, right? I kind of conjure up images of that person who's broken up with their loved one and sitting there just binge eating ice cream, just broken down. The walls are broken down, so they buy, right? Kind of this perpetual consumption. Buying. Fill other voids, right? Corporation frying, defying fraudulent list liars and burning empires, tap into the telephone wire. So like corporate power, surveillance, rebellion. This is a tricky one. This is one that I don't know the right solution on. I mean, it's definitely a challenging one, right? Is, from a personal standpoint, from a privacy standpoint, right? None of us want spying. None of us want listening in. But we want safety. We want the good that comes with that, even though there's always corruption that goes with it too. And that's the challenge, right? But if we could prevent a nuclear explosion on or multiple or prevent, let's just create it at home. If we could have prevented 9/11, I know there's all kinds of documentaries and stories, and I'm not going to get into what conspiracy theories there were, if it's fact or fiction or whatever. I'm going to put all that aside, right? Let's just say hypothetically that 9/11 could have been prevented with better surveillance, listening in on conversations, right? And people personally that were deceased from that event. It becomes easier to argue for the surveillance. But again, I'm not saying I'm for it. Honestly, I'm torn because I get the pros and cons of both sides. I think I do at least. And it's a tough one. But he's pointing out that that's the world we live in, right? And what he's specifically saying, I feel like, though, is corporate power and surveillance, which is almost different than government, right? And I can't think of great use cases at all where it makes sense in corporate other than, we talk about mobs and things like that. So deep. Once again, of course, Ren. And history's biased. It glorifies and justifies our evil. It justifies the wars that rain destruction upon people. Every single human born equal, they treat you like an asset, not a human, man. It's see-through. Woo! Right? This is kind of this fake history and justification war. It's an interesting point, though, because it's almost like he's saying that history is often told from a biased perspective, right? And history is biased. Well, not almost saying, he's literally saying that. It glorifies and justifies our evil, right? So it's almost like you justify the destructive wars, the oppressive systems, whitewashing ethical issues and so forth aside. And that is truthful, at least in the American system, right? Like when I read history, which, by the way, our American history was terrible. Our social studies and so forth is so far beyond the rest of the world. But in any case, when I did it, it was about like memorizing facts, and it gave the appearance, of being objective, but it was told through a very specific lens, right? And like, let me just give an example, and I'm not going to claim that I know anything about what happened there other than, reading Schindler's List, then watching the movie and learning some about it and so forth. And of course, the oppression against Jews and the Holocaust and all that was bad. So I'm not gonna say any of that was good or that there's good that came of it. But what you don't hear and see is, was there any good that came from that today, perhaps from the learnings of it? How Germans look at that and how they teach their people about that. Maybe there were certain aspects of mindset that, despite, the Nazis' approach that, most people would consider it, kind of a bad way to operate and a bad way to run, government agency and lead people and so forth. Were there any good in that, right? I don't believe almost anything is perfect, one direction or not, right? The best thing that you've ever heard of in your life, there's some downsides to it more than likely. And similarly, something that's so atrocious that many people don't even want to talk about, maybe there's some good of that. And so it's interesting to think about history always told from a biased perspective, because I think there's learning in everything, right? Slavery through debt. You think that mortgage is to help you? Bills stacking high, killing dreams, money maims you. Lion tames you, the land of the free. Irony. Oh man, what that hit so hard when he said the land of the free. Because there's a line, let's see if I can get it right. It's been quite a while. But there's a line in Rage Against the Machine where he says, the land of the free, and then he hollers out, whoever told you that was your enemy. Just epic. And I was really thinking of that. I almost thought he was going to say that. The land of the free, because there was a slight pause, irony. I'm sure, because Ren follows Rage Against the Machine clearly, that he was thinking of that line there. I'm sure. So slavery through debt, you think that mortgage is to help you, right? And so it highlights how financial systems that, are designed to liberate people, to give them options, can actually operate as new forms of enslavement, right? Like, how many people, right? Think about mortgages, traditional mortgages. Again, I'm talking U.S. That's what I know. Right? Like it's a 30-year mortgage, but they refinance and like never pay it off. I saw a comedian the other day who's like 79 years old, I think. I don't recall exactly. But yeah, he was joking about, how he just paid off his student loans.
I just paid off my student loan.
Right? And that's, I think the idea here is it's kind of enslaved you into this, and that vehicle, financial vehicle that is there designed to enable you, can also be a form of entrapment, slavery, right? You think it's there to help you. Bills stacking high, killing dreams, money maims you, line tames you, right? And it is kind of a societal norm and pressure that almost the only way to kind of get started and get ahead is to put yourself in that kind of debt. And it does enable people, it does enable them get going. I think that's the obvious piece, and that's probably why Ren's not talking about it here, right? It's the piece that most people know and understand. Now, I think it's changed a little bit today, but I remember 15 years ago, maybe 12 years ago, talking with my wife about, her sister in Poland and them getting their first new home and so forth, and that most of society did not work off of mortgages. You have to pay cash, and they have to save up a significant amount of money, which, it goes both ways, right? So they couldn't, buy a home. Now it's changed today, and I think they do have a mortgage. It's slightly different terms and operates differently and so forth, but I think they had already owned some land and all that. I don't want to obviously get into personal life, but, it's a different world is my point there. Well, all that aside, it can be an enablement, but, his point here is you think it's there to help you. You really need to think that through. And the system, and it ties back to, all of the greater good and greed and all of it. He's tying it all back together, right? And then, this irony of freedom. The land of the free is ironic. We talked a little bit about that, but kind of depicting the U.S. as a place where freedom is undermined by hierarchy and false education. Or maybe not just the U.S., but Western societies, democratic societies, right? Like we saw in Money Game 3, I think it was, if I'm not mistaken. A hierarchy, false education kills the fire in me. Still I stand strong. There's like two towers that were knocked down by greedy men's thirst for power. So that one's direct, right? We know the Twin Towers and 9/11 and what a tragedy, right? Knocked down by greedy men's thirst for power. And now greed plants the seed that will destroy us all if we succumb to greed. Fuck greed, silent I breathe, burn money. Greed makes us bleed, makes us bleed, makes us bleed. Burn money. So I think, if I'm not mistaken, I think that they said that this was done between the second and the third Money Games. And I think similarly, why am I blanking? The whole game that Ren played with everybody. I want to say hide and seek, but that's not it. Oh my goodness, I'm blanking. The scavenger hunt, right? Ultimately, I think that was done right after the third one, if I'm not mistaken. But there, he specifically actually challenges them to burn money. I did a video of my reaction to that, the last one. I'll link to that here if you want to check it out. But ultimately, he's saying it here, literally, right? And it's, a destructive force of capitalism. Greed makes us bleed. Right? So I think the idea here is that greed destroys society. And we've seen that recurring theme time and time again. We've talked about it with 7 Sins being the worst of greed. And I haven't watched 7 Sins video, but the reference to it. And we also saw Ren reacted to Harry Mack freestyling over Ren, where there was the 7 Sins there, the drawing of that from Ricochet and so forth. So, awesome. Our political system is a farce. Democracy will not exist till actions speak louder than money. Wealth is a poison, honey. Another money-making holiday for the Easter Bunny. Adverts suck out your soul, drink Coca-Cola. Lining up the pockets of the fat controller. Selling fear to the people that it spread like Ebola propaganda machine. Woo! So I think this is, it's kind of this influence, corporate influence, propaganda, advertisements, manipulating society, promoting consumption, spreading fear, references to Coca-Cola, of course, being kind of the most recognizable brand. The fat controller illustrate the dominance of corporations over, individual choice. And then this concept of the American dream, it's almost like it's painted as an empty ideal as it goes into American dream. It's hopeless, right? And then we got Nikola Tesla, 1883. The DC current system fought against. Sorry, my head's itching. I think it's because I've been wearing the headphones for so long. Fought against the AC. But not because the AC system wasn't any better, because people don't like change when money's at the center, right? And so there was this famous Nikola Tesla and Thomas Edison, I believe it was, kind of this battle over AC and DC currents. And I forget which is which, but I think the article showed that it was Tesla that argued against AC current, or I might have them incorrect, but I think it was AC that was the better current. It enabled them to scale better and just made more sense, better delivery and so forth. But because there was a kind of a corporate interest in money at the center of DC, they launched some kind of political propaganda against AC, or maybe I had vice versa against DC. But I think it was AC was the one that was better, if I'm not mistaken. It's been a while since I've heard this and read this, but ultimately it just started this battle, which, like, science and advancement and what made sense for society was literally taken as a backseat. So what a great reference from Ren. Really, what an epic reference. And yeah, I think it was called like the War of Currents or something like that if you want to look it up. Move let me enter from the epicenter, poison parliament. Who's the main contender? Oh, it's you, Mr. President. Evident that the counterintelligence is a hell of a prevalent. Now, he does show Trump there, but you see, he talks about, it doesn't matter if it's Trump or if it's Obama or if it's Bush, and we see that multiple presidents referenced through multiple videos. So I don't think he's particularly calling out or pointing out anyone specifically here, even though in this particular moment he is. So it's just a condemnation of political leaders, right? Challenging the president and parliament as complicit in corruption. Yeah, he did mention parliament as well as president. So he's talking about just systemic. And yeah, he said evident that counterintelligence is a hell of a prevalent. Counterintelligence is presented as a smokescreen, like kind of highlighting the prevalence of deception in politics, right? And so what a powerful piece, right? Like, it's a critique of modern society, right? Targeting themes of, consumerism, greed, of course, greed is just that underlying concept here with the money and various money games. And again, 7 sins, and that being the most one, right? Political corruption, obviously overarching theme. We even see manipulation of individual freedom, disillusionment of a society and so forth. And then all these musical references. Then, of course, Ren's rapping and the visual elements. I mean, just what an epic masterpiece all across the board. This was a 2.5 minute video, and here I am, 25 minutes in. Unbelievable. Really, tip my hat to it. And so if you hadn't subscribed yet, please go ahead and do so. And consider joining us over at A-Aron Reacts.com. We'll put a link up here for it. And we will see you in the next one. Thank you much.